All right, welcome back, guys. So from this lesson, let's actually take a look at a little bit more complicated UI design and how to implement it. So I'm going to use this Tinder app example, and it is a very popular social app. And some of this app screenshot I found are not the most up-to-date version, but we just want to use that to show some of the UI implementation example using Flutter. So hopefully that will give you some better ideas on how can you turn the actual UI design into a Flutter UI implementation code. All right, so let's actually focus on this one. And I'm just gonna do this one kind of a profile browsing page where you can see the user's profile, especially the picture, some of the basic profile information, whether you like it or not, some of the buttons here, right? So to follow the top-down design, okay, once you see the screen, all right, let's just see what kind of a layout we need and then what kind of widget do we need, right? So I'm gonna bring this kind of a designer line here again. All right, so when I look at this screen, looks like it's a typical vertical setup, a vertical layout. So I think at the top level, root level, we probably will need a column because there's some bars here. There's a middle area where we have all the profile information. And then at the end, we have some of the button for a user to interact with. All right, so if I were going to divide the screen, probably this is what I'm going to do. And then there's three major areas. All right, so something like this. So three parts, and then they are vertically aligned in sequence. So we're going to use a column, which is a vertical layout, all right, for the root level. And then next thing you need to figure out, as we showed you last time, you need to basically decide the weight, how much space we gave for each component in this column, right? So obviously the top bar should have the minimum space just with the size they need, with the icon, with a logo here. It's pretty narrow here. And then in the middle area where we need a lot more space, so it looks like this part here probably takes about, I'd say 70% or 65% of space. Maybe I'll give 65 first. All right, and then the bottom part have maybe 30%. All right, and then we'll give the 5% to the first one. All right, and if you think this is not right, we can always adjust it, or maybe give this one like 10%, this one maybe 25. All right, so this is just the initial number to estimate. And if you have a professional UI designer, they will actually be able to tell you exactly what is the ratio so that you can actually put those numbers into the code. So it doesn't matter, we can always adjust and change these numbers. All right, so that's the first step. Now, once you decide this, now let's focus on each component. And then this component here, obviously, it is a row because it's vertical. And inside a row, you got an icon, you got a logo. I think that's gonna be an image and then another icon. Pretty straightforward. They're aligned vertically, horizontally. And then in the middle area, and then you got a little bit more work to divide. So obviously this part here is a image, right? So I'm gonna change the color. And then, but then there are other things. Okay, there's this little text to show the name and age, and also some of the icon, and number to show a number of pictures. And then there's also another category here, some other icons and text that shows you all of this, some other profile information, probably number of friends and the number of articles shares, right? So these are just the basic functionality about the middle area. But for this whole area, okay, as you can see, there's some kind of a vertical layout, also some kind of horizontal layout. So you need to decide how you're gonna do with this one. And looks to me, overall, this is still vertical. First one, image, and then this row here, right? So I'm going to still use the column. And with that, inside the column, looks like we need an image. But here we need a row here, okay? The row will have some text, and also an icon, okay? So that's the middle row here. And then at the end, there's still a row, right? So every row will have an icon and plus a text. All right, so we'll do another row, and I'm gonna make this one a little bit smaller so we can fit them in. Okay, and then you got a icon, text, and another icon, and then text, right? So that is how you can divide this whole screen into different kind of components. And then last one is pretty straightforward. It's just a row with some kind of, you know, image icon, I guess, image button, because you can click on this image, and we'll kind of Google how do we implement image button. All right. So that's pretty much the design. So once you have this, and then we can start to implement it. But again, the reason we want to do this kind of planning is because you want to see what is the first UI layout or widget to use, and then how do we break it down. All right, so let's come back to our Flutter, go back to the app, and this is what we did last time about the login screen. Okay, so we're going to create a brand new screen. All right, so I will call it user profile. Okay, so I will create a screen from scratch. I will use the STFUL to kind of quickly get a prototype of the code base. Here I will call it user profile page. All right, and then don't forget to import the material design. Always use the auto completion. And then here we're gonna do the UI part, right? So let's come back to the design one more time, and then we will need to start with a column, right? So let's actually start with column. And before that, we need a scaffold. All right, and I'm gonna start with a clean page, okay, without anything, just about it. And now we'll do a column. And then column will need the children because you can put multiple elements. All right, so I will just make a placeholder, make sure we can actually see everything. Demo. All right, just one child here. So I want to trigger this screen. So I'm going to trigger that from the login page. All right, from the login page, once we click on the login button, we haven't implemented how do we actually check the authentication. But for now, just a very basic dummy code here to go to the next screen. We'll come back to the database and talk about how do we do the login and sign up. All right, so go back and then see the how we navigate from the pages. So we use a very basic navigator example to do that. So navigator, this code are all the same. The only thing different is here to specify what is the page you want to go. So I'm going to do user profile page. As you can see, always use auto completion because it's going to automatically import the page, import the class for you. Okay, so hot load and then click on the login button. All right, so it goes to the next screen. So there's a little text here, shows up at the top. You can't see it. All right, but we are at this screen here, and then we can start to build our new layout here. All right, so the layout. Okay, so let's do the column. We already got a column, and then we need 3 components. The first one is a row, the second one is another column, and then the third one is a row, right? So let's just put those. So we need a row, all right, and then we need a column. Finally, we need another row. All right. So right now, if you just run this, I don't think you can see anything. So let's see if we can actually open a little like designer here to be able to check some lines, right? So right now you really can't see anything because we haven't put anything inside. So that's why every this component is 0 height, 0 width. It's not allocated any kind of space, right? So let's, for example, if I'm going to add some text here, you will be able to see it. So if I add some text, all right, rerun this, and you can see there is a row, there's a column, there's a row, and then you can start to see the space, right? So anyway, so just make sure you got this 3 components here. The first thing we need to do is to give the right space. You want to allocate space first and before filling in other widgets, because otherwise the widget will mess up your space. So let's use the 10%, 65%, and then 25% as our ratio. All right, so to do that, we will need to add a expanded. So I'm going to use this shortcut, expand it. All right, this one here, same thing. Okay, so we need to basically trigger the normally move the mouse here and expand it. All right, and then the last one here, expanded. All right, so once you have it expanded, right now if you refresh, okay, so they are equally splitting the whole space of the screen, right? So that gives you some better idea, and then we can specify the flags. So this one gonna get 10%, this one getting more, 65, and then here we do 25. All right, rerun it. All right, so now you can kind of see the idea about the screen, right? So this is the top bar, 10%. This is the middle area where you have most of the space, and then right here you got the bottom buttons to play around with it, right? So it looks like pretty good, right? So then with this, we're finishing the first level of division, and then we can focus on each individual area, where the first one, the row, right? So the row here is left icon button and the right icon button, and in the middle maybe a little bit image to put for the logo, right? So pretty much you need three things. All right, so let me actually close this one here, bring our app back. All right, so here is the row. Okay, so we are doing the first navigation bar, so we need a two icon here, or icon button. So for this one here, I'm just going to use some kind of placeholder. Just Google some Flutter. For example, I want to see if there's something called icon button. So let's actually see if there's something we can actually use that something like this actually looks good. I think let's actually see the code here. They use something called icon button where you can click on, right? So I will just copy this one, see if that works. So it's called icon button. So any of this kind of widget, just Google and see whatever fits your needs. All right, so let's try this. I put the icon button where you specify an icon, and then here you can do anything. This is just Android, and then that's the color, and then you can do some action for quick. All right, so run the app. All right, I guess the reason is because this one is the white. Okay, so let's actually change this one into red. Try this again. All right, so here you can see a little red icon button here, and I think you can actually click on this. All right, so that's how you can just simulate a little navigation bar button. And then let's actually see the design here. This one actually is based on the design here, a little kind of a hamburger icon, right? So the menu. So let's see if there any kind of a menu. Yeah, there is. Let's rerun this one here and become the menu. All right, so that's the first one. Now we also need another one at the end, so which is a little messaging, right? Chat. So there is some kind of a chat. Do we have a chat? Yeah, we do have a chat. All right, run this. All right, we got another chat. So it looks good. And then in the middle, we need some image, right? So this is just an image. When we do image, we can just use a network image. That's the simplest one. And then I'm gonna just basically Google a Tinder logo. All right, something to just use as a placeholder. I need something very narrow, not too high. So maybe let's try this one here. Oh yeah, these are some good ones. Yeah, so actually I'll just do this one. This one actually looks good. So I'm gonna right click on this. Let's just copy the image URL. Okay, make sure this one works. Looks like it works. All right, so come back here, put the URL, and run the app. All right, so as you can see, actually goes here, right? Now you see the problem when you are doing this, and then this image is too big, so that actually it takes all the space, and then you can't see the other icon here, right? So obviously the better solution will be you need to get the right size of the image. You don't want the image to be too big because it will not only mess up your UI, but also waste a lot of bandwidth, right? You need to download those images. You need to show and render those images. If your screen is very tiny, you just need a little tiny image, right? So with that, we gotta specify the image size. Okay, you can't just let it go like this. whenever you want to constrain the size and everything, so we will need to come here to put some sizes for the image, right? So that's something really important. Now we can also try some other approach. We could also maybe give more space for the next one. If you can give more space for this one, then maybe it will also shrink this image here, right? So there are different approaches. Let's just try one simple one, which is to give the specific width for this image. So I'm gonna go here, add a container. Okay, whenever you're gonna do your own space thing, you will just go with a container. All right, and we can do the container, and you can see the width, right? So I can do the width like 100, and I see what happened if I rerun the app. Okay, that come back to 100, right? So that's one way to do it. And then if you feel this is too small, I can do 200, and that's what the 200 looks like, right? So that's one way to do it. But if you hard code the width, there is definitely some kind of a disadvantage because you are still hard coding the size. And maybe for this screen, the 200 looks best, but then if we change the wider screen, the 200 may be too small, right? So that still doesn't solve the problem completely. So a better way is actually, if you don't use the container, all right, we could actually do, since this one is under the row layout, we can still specify the portion, the percentage. So coming back to design, now we could say that, okay, I will give a lot of space for the Tinder, this logo here, but also minimum space for the two icons, right? So it's just they have a bigger portion of the whole row. But then I don't want this one to lose any of the space. We need to still give some of the 10%, 20%, something like that, right? So you can still use the weight to constrain the width, right? So this is what we'll do. So I can go here, I can do expanded again, just like what we did for the column. And then right here, do one more. It's kind of slow to show up the, all right. Now, finally, this button here, let's also give a expanded. All right, so once you do this, I think it will be better because now it automatically, divide the whole screen to 33% each, so they each take their space, right? So that's just another way you can do. And then of course you can give this one a little bit more space. You can see this one takes 60%, and these guys take 15%, actually 20%. All right, so that's just a little bit better, right? So you can definitely play around with the spacing and everything, and then make it work. So eventually, if you got this one, all right, you still need to do one thing, which is the icons. Right now, the icon, I think it's kind of a center here. If you want to go to the left or want to go to the right, there are also ways you can do it. Or if you just maybe make this one smaller, give more space, 70%. All right, if we do this, and it looks like the icon actually goes to the right corner. And then this point, if you still think that little logo here is too big, right? So then you can just add margin to shrink it, right? So for example, for this image here, right, I can just still add a container. For the container, I can just do margin, right? So I can do the margin. I want to add some margin to all of those, 20. All right, so that's how you can actually shrink the logo down, right? So again, for the UI, to do the same thing, you have normally different approaches to do it. It doesn't matter which one you choose. As long as you test it, as long as you can justify it, make sure it's very scalable. When I say scalable, if you use the percentage, it's scalable because it will not be too much different when you have different devices. So you don't want to hard code the specific lens, height, and width. You can hard code the margin because the margin's value is pretty small, so it shouldn't affect you too much. But you don't want to specify with hard coded height or width, right? So that's how we do the row here. So let's just leave it here. I think there's still a lot of things you can play around with. That's pretty much the basic idea. All right, so let's move on to the middle section. The middle section here, we need an image. It's a column or image, and then another row, right? So let's just do it. So I'm gonna remove this one. There is the image. All right, so again, I will just use the network image to represent it. And then we need a row, and we need another row. All right. So whenever you work with image, you want to also, just like what we did earlier, okay, the image, because the image size sometimes changes, right? So you want to make sure that we got a right size, the space for this image before you actually put in the image. And then in order to do that, the best way again is to use a portion or weight to give the actual space so that the image will not go too big or too small and affect the whole layout, right? So let's actually try this. So right now, this one here has image and row, and you can again use the same approach. Okay, I'm gonna give this expanded to all of them so that we can specify their weight percentage. All right, so one more. All right, let's try this. So right now, if I run this app here, I can't see anything. All right, so actually, let me see if we can see kind of a layout here. Yeah, you do can see the layout. So here we got a image, and here's a row and another row, but then they're equally splitting the space. But we want an image to get more space. So I will do a flex. Maybe in this case, image probably will take 70%. Okay, and then this middle row here is very tiny, so 10%, and then this one here 20%. All right, so refresh the page. All right, so image, the little row here, and then the wider row here. Okay, so I think that looks good. All right, now let's bring the image. So we're gonna bring the user image. I'll just use a user profile photo. All right, so there are a lot of some of the standard photo we can use. All right, so I'm gonna choose this guy here. All right, so right click here, get image address. All right, so come back to my code. So I put the image URL. All right, so let's run this app. All right, something is wrong here. Let's see. Okay, I think it's about this empty image URL here. Let me try this again. Okay, now it should work. All right, so this is a nice and decent image, and it's a square size, and sometimes the image size is not right, and then you got to fix it. But then no matter what the size the image is, the image size is constrained by this one. It's not going to go over the 70%. All right, so you want this one to be smaller. If I give 50%, and then this one gave 30%. If I rerun the app, the image will be shrink because you cannot go more than 50%. Okay, so that's why when you're dealing with the images, definitely you got a space set up first, and then work on other things. All right, so this one looks really good. All right, that's for the image, and then the next one will be a bunch of tags and a little text and little icon. This is the easy. All right, so we'll just do a text. This one, we'll just do a name. Okay, Jamie 22, and then another text will be the number of photos. Okay, text 8 photos. Finally, we need the icon. I think icon is going to be based on icons here, right? And I choose photo. I'll try that, and then run the app. All right, so we got a name, and then another text for the number of photos, and then finally the icon, right? So right now this one works, but the problem is that they all stay together, right? So this two should go to the right, Now there is a very simple way to make that happen. So what we want is basically we can add some space in the middle. So the first text, and then we want to get a huge space here to push the thing to the right. So there's one thing you can do very common with the Flutter is you can just add a spacing. So if you do a spacer here, just empty spacer, and if you run the app, as you can see, the spacer will basically take the whole thing in between and then really stretch it so that the other things will go to end. All right, so that's something to do, pretty simple. All right, and that looks good, but then the margin here doesn't look good, right? So this margin here, there's some too close to the screen, right? This one, same thing. So if you want to fix that one, I mean, we can simply just add some margin to the whole row here, right? So I can just click on here and then do with the container to wrap the row, okay? And then we're going to do a margin, and then the left and right margin, we should specify that. All right, so the left, I'm going to give 30, and the right, I'm going to give 30. Run this again. All right, that comes back to the middle. All right, so that looks a lot better. Okay. All right, so that's how you can do this row here, and obviously you can just make the text a little bit better. So let's actually change it. If you want to do some style here, just do the text style. Actually, it's called style, right? And then text style. And then I think there's some kind of size you can do. Maybe I do a 16. Yeah, a little bit bigger. And you can do some kind of weight, where you can do a bold here, and that's how you can change it. And you can obviously change the color and everything, right? So I'm going to apply this one to the other one again. I'll apply that to this number here. All right. All right, so the second number here, yeah, got the same kind of a similar style, right? So that's how we can implement this row here. All right, so let's move on to the next row. So this row here, we got 2 sections, and one and the second one. So this one here looks like they are actually splitting the space, right? So this is one group, this is another group. They each take 50% of the screen, right? So, and then inside, maybe they also take 50%. So you can definitely align something to do, you know, each take 25% if that's easy. Or you can create 2 groups here, right? So I might go to the two row group approach so that it's easier to manage, right? So inside this row, I can just add 2 more rows. Okay, this is one row here. Okay, and then another row. So because I realized there are 2 different groups, all right, and then each row will take, you know, exactly half of the screen. So I will do expanded. So expanded is really your friend because it helps you to constrain the space. All right, so expanded. All right, and then with that, I will do a flex. I can do 50%. This one here is also 50%. And refresh. Nothing happened. We haven't put anything yet. Now inside here, and then we got a little icon and another text. Right, that's easy. So just the icon. For the icon, the first one is friends. Friend. Okay, I'm gonna use user. Or profile. We don't have a lot of options here. We do definitely have a book, right? And can we do what else? Let's see, something interesting here. I'll just do a tag faces. All right, so something for fun. And another one, we would do a text. For the text, let me actually just copy this text here to reuse the style. It's right here. Right, and then this one shows some kind of number. Got a 36 friends here. Okay, try that. Okay, we got it right here. So that's one, and then we need exactly the same thing. All right, so I'm just going to copy this whole thing here, and then put it to the next subgroup. All right, so let's just run it. As you can see, both take 50% of the screen, right? And then, but inside they're too close to each other. All right, so from there you can then specify some other things. Definitely you need some margin on the left and right so that we can apply the same thing, right? So for this whole row, let's actually just add a margin first, right? So we'll do the container. So definitely you have to use this kind of a helper shortcut in IDE to help you. Otherwise, it's very difficult to manage all the UI. So I'll get the left 30 and the right 30. Okay. So now we got this move in the middle, but we also need to split them, right? So for example, go here, the size are much bigger, right? So let's actually play around with it. And then the text is easy. I think the text here, you can just make the size bigger, right? So I'm gonna go with 26 and then 26. All right, so that's a lot bigger. The icon, I think that we can also control the size. Let's actually try. I think there is an attribute. Yeah, there is attribute size. Let's try 10. Okay, 10 is too small, and maybe we should do like 36. All right, so it looks a lot better, and then maybe do 42. Okay, so yeah, not too big. All right, so with this, I can also apply the same icon property here for the other one. All right. And then change this one to a different one, book. All right, so that's a different one, right? I believe you can also change the color and everything, so I'll leave that for you to do more decoration. And also the two things are too close to each other. Again, there are different ways you can just simply add some of the margin. But coming back here, as you can see, looks like we are going to put this one to the left and the other one to the right. Left and right, right? So you can do the same thing I just taught, that you add a little spacer here in the middle. If I add a spacer, all right, this one here and also this one here, there's a spacer. Okay, once I add a spacer, so they actually take the whole space in the middle and then they go like this, right? But then they're too far away, right? So that means we want to add some more margin, right? So for example, everything here, okay, for example, this number here, 36, okay, I can just add some more margin to the right so that I can push the things on the left, right? So I can just go here with a container and I can say margin, and then margin, I only need the margin to the right. Okay, for that one, I want to put 50. All right, so that pushes you back to the left. So that's too much, I'll do 20. Okay, so that's how you can do it, maybe 25, all right? And then the same thing you can do for the other one. The other one actually was okay, I think. So maybe I'll just leave it to 20, something like this. All right, so as long as it looks good. And same thing, you can also push the icon to a little bit left, all right, something like this. All right, so that's how you actually briefly implement this area here. Okay, not exactly saying we can add some little background image. We're going to ignore that for now, but we just want to focus on the layout, right? So that's one. And then the last one was the row. Okay, the row with 3 buttons. All right, this one shouldn't be too difficult, and then it's just one row with all the 3 buttons, and then we can just try to use the image icon button, Flutter. I should search for Flutter. Image button, a button with image. Okay, there is image button. Let's see. Oh, this is actually a third-party library. Let's see if we can find anything from here. They got a flat button, the image. All right, looks like you can do something like this. All right, and the icon button. All right. So yeah, it looks like just icon button work, right? So we can specify the size. Okay, let's just try the icon button. So from here, all right, so let's actually bring an icon button, and then we're gonna use, this is to use the image assets. We can also try other things, and let's see if we can bring something from the network also. Yeah, we can. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna bring a network image for this icon button, and then I think we need a kind of cross icon, information icon, and also a favorite icon, right? So let's actually see if we can find anything useful for this. All right, so coming back here, cross icon, something like this. You know, I'm not gonna be able to find like exactly the same style, but just something that's good to use. Okay, so this is not bad. Okay, I'm just gonna use this one for now. Copy the image address and then put it right here. All right, let's see what happens. Go back here, refresh. All right, so it works. All right, so this little icon here, and then let's just do the same thing for everyone. So we're gonna do another 1, 2, and 3, and we need a information icon. Yeah, the first one is kind of perfect, so let's actually use this one here. And then last one was favorite. Let's actually do maybe a little bit different one. Let's just use this one here. All right, so copy the image address. All right, see how it looks like. Refresh. All right, so that goes here. All right, so we got 3 icons, and then because the icon button, you can specify the size, so that's why it actually showed up like this, right? Now, first of all, we gotta like center all of this into the middle part, right? So this is in a row, and then when the row is used, you can use something called main axis alignment, and then you can do a center, refresh, and then that goes to the center, right? And then you can also do more like spacing and to make the icon bigger. So you can just definitely make this one bigger. So that I think the left and right are bigger. So I'm gonna do 100, 100. All right, so that's how it looks better, right? But then obviously this is not a very good icon. So we should actually get a better assets for the icon so that this part here will looks really good. All right. But again, if you don't want to use the specific hard-coded size, you can still go with the portion with the percentage option. Just expand this one, and also this one, and then so that you can train the space. Obviously, these 2 buttons need a bigger space, and this one need a smaller space. They're always different approach to do the same kind of thing. So just pick the ones you are more comfortable with, you're more familiar with, and then get a prototype first. And then you can always come back to modify it, all right, to just touch some of those little details and polish some of the little UI parameters to make it more professional. All right, so in this example, I just want to show you how you could actually go from one design and break down to different levels, and then further divide into more containers and layout. Eventually you put everything together. So this is what I call as a top-down design. Okay, always start from the top level, from the root level, and then always Google and try to search for different things to see which one works best. All right.